So I'm at the tail end of prepping the camera and the rest of the gear behind me for a job that I've got tomorrow, which will be a couple of pieces of cameras, which is a continuation of the job that I was filming with Matt on Friday. This will be half day 2 of I think 4 in total. The fact that we're split up over multiple days is just due to scheduling with the talent that we need to record the piece of cameras with. In an ideal world, we would have filmed all of these pieces of cameras on a half day or a full day, but just due to availabilities, we've just had to split them up over a few separate half days. I'm going to be adding a top plate to the FX6 to give me a few more mounting points for the camera, so that I can add an articulating arm for a GoPro to give some more dynamic looking behind the scenes angles, because at the moment I feel that a lot of my behind the scenes stuff has been very static or time-lapse based with a bit of voiceover. So I'm trying to add a little bit more speaking to camera and a few more dynamic shots of what I'm doing to my videos. So just to maybe up the production value a little bit. I haven't been super jazzed with the quality that's coming out of the GoPro. I mean, the GoPro that I'm using is Works GoPro, and it's a Hero 10, I think. I know it's a few years old, but yeah, I've never really been a huge fan of the footage that come out of them. I feel that with GoPros, the advertisements make the footage look really amazing, and then in practice you have to be in some really ideal settings or ideal locations to get the best looking footage out of each of the cameras. Or it could just mean that I'm doing something wrong. But yeah, if you've got any good settings for GoPro footage, leave them down in the comments below and I'll check them out.
The first location that we're filming in was an open plan office space. As much as open plan office spaces are great for collaboration and things like that, it makes it a little bit difficult to capture the cleaner sounding audio, and that was something that we were contending with at the time of this shoot. Being the roll time was first thing in the morning, we had a lot of staff members still rolling in and kind of catching up after the weekend. We tried to find a quieter area to film the piece of camera, but the area that we initially decided on was the best place in terms of background and vibes. Sometimes you have to pick your battles and just kind of manage the best you can. I decided to keep things really simple here in terms of the lighting setup, only going with a single key light, as there was a lot of overhead lights giving us ambient level. To remove any unflattering shadows cast by the overhead lights on the talent, I put a scrim above head just to soften all of the lighting above head. This prevented a lot of the shadows under the eyes that we may have seen if we had just gone without a overhead scrim. When the talent arrived, they were wearing glasses, and since there were rows of lights behind the camera, they were reflecting within the talent's glasses. So the last thing I did was put up a black solid to help mitigate some of the reflections that we're getting from some of the other lights in the room. For the second setup, it was much of the same, but we're standing in front of the Specsavers model store, which they have at head office. And there was a lot of ambient light coming from the store, so that was something that we had to combat a bit. So in terms of the lighting for this, I again was using the 720B as the key light, but I had to bring in an additional light, which I was planning on just bouncing into the roof to give more ambient fill for the exterior portion of the room, but it wasn't enough. So I grabbed the reflector to bounce the second light into to bring up the fill on the talent's face, so that we had enough level to balance out the background as well as the foreground. We were seeing some of the reflections of the light in the background, so I made the pivot and adjusted the lighting so that it was a hard profile, and that removed the reflection in its entirety, but it did make the lighting more split across the face. That's all for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.